trans women are not women. They've never been women. They should never have been judged to be women. And that actually all of the arguments that women have made to protect female...
You know, sorry, but I'm just going to say it. Trans women, you brought this on yourself. Yeah. So we got some good news, everybody. From the UK. So this is from the UK, though. Remember, it's not from the United States. So
it's a good sign, though.
It is a good sign. So the UK just signed in their Supreme Court that trans women aren't women. No, basically that biology matters and that biological sex matters and that women are adult human female and basically trans women are not women, and get over yourself. So let's bring this up here. Okay, let's listen to a little of this.
It's definitive outside the Supreme Court. Men are men, women are women, trans women are not women, not just on paper, but in law. It is so seismic, I think, this judgment for women, that you could put it on a par with votes for women.
Oh my God. I know a lot of those...
Today.
I know a lot of these women, and they're all friends of mine, so it's kind of cool to see them.
Wow. The judges have said what we always believed to be the case, that women are protected by their biological sex.
So gross. It's actually so gross that it's come down to this. I mean, really?
It's incredible. It's incredible that we've gone this far.
It's just like, I don't even have words sometimes for it, because I just feel like, really? We just regressed women's rights to include men who think they're women, which is totally disgusting and gross. And trans women should have understood what they were doing was so wrong, and there was no way it was going to last. That's the thing that I don't understand about the trans activists. How would they think any of that was going to last, and why would they ever even think that was a good thing to do? Why?
I think it's very simple, in that it's just delusion. That's actually delusional thinking. That they're living in some kind of world where they truly believe this or something.
Do they?
I don't know.
I'm not sure if they actually do. I think that these trans activists, we're not talking about all trans women here, by the way, because I have a lot of friends, as you know, and you do, and they're very level-headed. I always use Blair as the sort of dominant one there, but you know, Alexis Blake, and I have just other Tory who totally know they're males, but these ones that are activists, I think that they know exactly what they're doing, but they just, you know, there's some people who get on a power trip like Dylan Mulvaney. Dylan knows what they're doing, but I think that they just get on this power trip, and then when everyone in the world goes along with it, right? Is it delusional on some level? It is, but also is it powered by other people giving them the power? Does that make sense to think that way?
They're feeding them that energy.
Yes.
And I think once it hit the institutions, so it hit colleges, it hit universities, it hit the school system, it hit the workforce.
Yes.
You know, if you didn't affirm somebody, you would be fired from your job. So people were really forced to say things.
But did it get so deep and got in medical, got trans women are women? And what I also think is people felt like they had to do it because they were trying to be good, nice people, right? They were trying to say, oh yeah, of course, these trans women are suffering. I do think some people did it because they felt like trans women were suffering on some level, and that because they keep using that trope that, you know, we're under attack and like we all off ourselves and we don't get what we want, and you know, like all these things that kept pushing this victim-y narrative. So I think on some level some people might be doing it because they felt like it was the right thing to do to help trans people, and then it just
and I think even I was one of those people at one point in my life, because I wasn't looking at it from the perspective of like, oh, you know, there's all these AGPs and all these bad actors invading the space. I was looking at it as, well, this person must have gender dysphoria and they must really be serious about this. That's where I always came from. And so I was kind of deceived in the beginning when this all first started, because I thought, oh, well, these are just people that need the care. They need the trans care because they have dysphoria. And it happens because, like, you know, from a young age, I learned, you know, I think I was a teenager in my late teens when I learned what being a transsexual was. So I was familiar with the idea because you're in the LGBT space.
Yes.
And so I didn't think much about it. It was like, okay, those people like that exist in the world, and that's okay. I knew it was rare.
Yeah.
But then as things went down this road, I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. There is not this many people that are actually trans. Like, you got to be kidding me.
Also, they got mean. They got so mean and nasty. And we were never like that before. We were never pushing our way into spaces and dominating. No. This weird trans woman rhetoric came, and these very angry trans women who, you know, just, and because the AGPers, the cross-dressers, the more fetishist ones started saying they were trans when they're not trans, they're something else, or they're not transsexual like me. So, so I think that's how we sort of kind of got into this, but let's go.
Oh, there's Helen Joyce. I love her.
Kamal. I mean, I was looking ahead to this Supreme Court judgment, and because of how, frankly, messed up we have been over recent years about men being men, women being women, confusion over sex and gender, what is gender identity.
You know, I want to say something real quick here, and what you think about this. You know, I remember when sex and gender were considered the same thing. I don't know if you remember that. Like, remember sex and gender were always like on your passport or whatever was gender or sex, and it was F or M. And then somehow it got separated. And I'm not sure when that happened or how that happened. Yeah. I don't remember when it happened, but I think that was our first mistake, is separating those two. Because then they're like, you pick your gender, and gender is something that you can make up and be that way. And I'm like, what? Wait a minute. I thought sex and gender were the actual, because remember it says gender on your, doesn't it say, no, it says sex on your ID. It doesn't say gender. I can't remember, but that's, when did it start to separate the difference between sex and gender? I don't remember how that happened.
I feel like I feel like it's been a thing for a while, but there was no emphasis on it. Like, there's an emphasis of gender's different than sex. It's just this constant, like, hammering. Hammering. It's different. Whereas before it was like, oh, we kind of talked about it a little bit in the community where we'd say, oh, yeah, you know, gender expression, but we didn't even use that term. I don't even think we used that phrase, gender expression, actually. That's this new thing, but
that's right.
It wasn't a big deal.
No,
you know what I mean? Like, it just wasn't a big deal. Like, it was just a
stereotype. It was like talking about stereotypes, like gender queer. I remember that kind of was a thing, and like it was all about how you looked. It wasn't about how you felt, and I think that's exactly right. But then it started to become about how you feel, and then they started to say biology isn't real, and that's where it really started getting weird. When you don't need biology to be trans because your biology isn't real, and you were assigned female at birth. You were not born. So they started changing all this language, and they started
stealing language
and twisting reality
from intersex.
That's right, and they twisted our language.
Yep, totally twisted the language around, redefined what a lesbian was, redefined what a woman was. And it was it's very like 1984, like dystopian, you know, when you can control the language and control what people say.
That's right.
And so I think it's even deeper than just, I mean, it's really
it
bad.
comes from
evil.
Gender study, academia. A lot of this comes from academia. Judith Butler with the whole like queer theory. Remember, people, theory is an opinion. It's a theory. It's not a fact. It's not based on fact. It's based on an opinion or a theory of. That's why people just get those things mixed up. Queer theory is just some academic mumbo jumbo that completely got into people's brains, and then they thought like all this stuff was real because it comes from. That's the scary part. They started teaching the young generation this language, and then that's how they gained power over this.
True.
And all of these wars that, frankly, have been waged against women, and women like me and other campaigners we're going to speak to in this podcast have been fighting back against for years. I sort of thought, could it be the case that the Supreme Court is going to now make definitions that are going to be so significant for my sex, for my daughters' daughters. And actually what we've had today, what we've heard inside this court, I think has exceeded all of our wildest dreams. It's been so clear what the law states on this issue, and that is that trans women are not women. They've never been women. They should never have been judged to be women. And that actually all of the arguments that women have made to protect female...
You know, sorry, but I'm just going to say it. Trans women, you brought this on yourself. This should have never even been an issue. They would have left you alone. You could have just been your own trans woman. Nobody would have cared about you. And how do I know that? Because I've been doing this for 32 years, and this was never an issue. You understand what I'm saying, Vikki?
Yeah. Like, oh no, it was never an issue. I remember when the bathroom thing first started becoming a problem. I'm going, why is this a problem all of a sudden? Like,
yeah, that's right.
It was never a thing.
Nope.
And all of a sudden there was this obsession with the bathrooms. And of course, the trans activists said, oh, it's all the conservatives. They're doing this to us.
Not
and
true.
I'm like, huh? I'm like, this whole idea of, like, I remember going in the bathroom with trans women and clubs and whatever. And it was just, it wasn't a big deal. And it was also, it was in clubs and it was in like LGBT spaces. But if they were doing that outside that space, like, nobody knew the difference because it just wasn't. Nobody cared, and they weren't walking around with the 5 o'clock shadows and the going in the ladies' room. Like it,
or just, if they were drag queens. They considered themselves drag queens, right? Like I remember how old I am and where I come from. I was in the club scene for 40 or 50 years, basically, and I remember all of. But they never, ever made it. They weren't angry at people. They would, if they were trans women, they would just go in, or if they didn't pass, they would go to the men's room, or, you know, it would just, so really they brought, I was going to say it again, they brought this on themselves, and you know that they will not admit it. They will act like this is a transphobic bill, and the fact that you made women, okay, and the world make a law like this, shame on you all. Shame. And also you're throwing me back a million years, because my passport now might have to be changed to female. Again, you know how I feel about that. I don't really care. I find it kind of funny. But because I don't, I'm just so grounded in myself. But at the same time, like, what about actual transsexuals who are younger and really dealing with their dysphoria in a way? You know, I don't understand why we're not holding these trans activists responsible for creating this shit show that they've created.
Oh, yeah, no, and I think Human Rights Campaign, GLAAD, all of these organizations, they have completely destroyed the LGBT community in a way. They've made it harder for everybody. And they've created us. And it's like homophobic now too.
Oh yeah.
Because
just watch this. Okay. Watch. Listen.
Only spaces to say that saying you're a woman is not the same as actually being a woman, I think now changes the entire conversation. And it's seminal because it's easy to forget as we celebrate these scenes here. People have lost their jobs over this.
Oh my God.
Women have been cancelled. Men have been cancelled. The debate was closed down. People like me were accused of being TERFs, trans-exclusionary, radical feminists. I was called a transphobe. I was called a Nazi. I was called a bigot. And finally, women like me and the women we're going to speak to on today's Daily Tea have been vindicated by the Supreme Court behind us.
I was in courts. It's a rather dry environment in there. You know, it's big benches.
So I thought she was going to mention the lesbian thing. That might be down. But what I was going to say I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off earlier, but I think they're going to, and also they were trying to redefine what a lesbian was. And you can't, I mean, what? The whole attack was on women, and the fact that I got called a TERF and transphobic and all the same things that woman got called, I got called too. It's
anybody that didn't agree, anybody that doesn't agree with the ideology and the direction of the ideology is called names, shut out of the conversation.
That's right.
You know, told to sit down, regardless of what your credentials are, regardless of what your experiences are. It doesn't matter. Is if you're not lockstep with the ideology, you're out. Which is a cult.
And also built on misogyny. That was, because remember, I keep telling you, this wasn't about men. This wasn't about trans men or men. It's always been about trans women. But now, so if you notice, everyone, the law states trans women are not women. It doesn't say anything about trans men. None of this conversation says anything about somebody like me, which you have to remember that. This is all based on women's rights, okay? So that says something to me about the trans community. You can't lump us all together because this whole fucking mess is because of trans women. That's the reason we're in this fucking mess today.
Yep.
You see these old paintings of judges from the ages, you know, back in the 17th and 18th century.
Yeah.
What must, if they had been able to transport themselves to today, looking at a country having a debate about what is a woman and what is a man, they would be absolutely astonished that we've gotten ourselves into this situation.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court is the highest court in the country. You cannot appeal against what it has decided today about biological sex being the key determinant of someone's identity. And it has opened up the next big debate, which is all those public authorities, all those sporting bodies, all those governments, not just the UK government. This was actually a case that came from Scotland, or the Scottish government was proposing that female quotas on boards could include trans women. This was the whole reason for the debate. In 2018, the Scottish government said its quota policy would mean that a public body could reach a female quota of women with trans women.
See, that I'm telling you, they fucked up everything. If they would have just, fuck, man, they're so dumb. They're actually dumb. So, of course, women are going to be like, what? Wait a minute here. No, why don't trans people create their, if there's so many, oh my God, create a space for yourself. But you see what they did? They kept trying to inch in. You didn't see any trans men doing that, did you? Did you ever see any trans men trying to get on boards or take over spaces in men's spaces? Have you seen that?
No.
Weird.
No. And I think it's because, well, trans men are women.
That's right. Or females. And we don't have that energy to like take it all over, dominate.
No, there's that, and plus men in general, I don't think are threatened. They don't have to feel threatened by trans men.
They're not.
Women are different. This is something that people don't like to hear, but women are the weaker sex physically. Yeah. You know what I mean? We're the weaker sex, so we have to be on guard in a different way.
Yes.
We have to live day to day differently, the way we walk the world. And I know you can relate to that because you once did that, you know?
Yes.
And on some level, you've been on the other side too and been treated as a male too, which I find that very interesting, actually. It's kind of neat. But
it is.
But you know, and because like you say, like you're so grounded in yourself, like you know that you're a female and you just understand that female space because you lived it and you are a female, you know?
That's right. And I don't need to lie about it. That's the whole thing that people don't understand. Just because you're transgender, you don't have to, like, I'm not trying to fool you, okay? I walk in as, I know how to, it is up to trans people. It's not up to you. It is literally up to a transsexual person to navigate the world in a way that doesn't cause problems, okay? Bottom line, I don't give a fuck what anybody says. I've been doing this too long to understand it's how I got where I'm at and why people actually like me and why I have a lot of dude friends. I have a lot of, like, straight dude friends who are just like completely chill with me and don't give a fuck and they have no issues with me, right? And so how did I get to be in that space, right? If I was trying to dominate it. But you can see a different energy with these so-called trans women and activists trying to literally say, I'm a woman. No, you're not a woman. Stop it. No. Literally. And you know what? Did you catch the part? They can't appeal this. It went to the Supreme Court. It is solid. Yep,
it's done.
Done.
Good.
Done. You're not doing any more of this shit. Oh, and you just watch. It's gonna be so come back on them tenfold.
And it was an appeal by a grassroots campaign led in Scotland by Joanna Cherry, who was an SNP politician who was absolutely vilified for standing up for women's rights. Her and others building a campaign that has ended up through appeal after appeal after appeal to the highest court in the land. Let's just hear Lord Hodge, who led the appeal court judgment today, what he said very precisely about why sex matters.
Yes.
The unanimous decision of this court is that the terms woman and sex in the Equality Act 2010 refer to a biological woman and biological sex. But we counsel against reading this judgment as a triumph of one or more groups in our society at the expense of another.
Thank you.
It is not.
Yes.
Really couldn't be clearer there, Kamal. I mean, honestly, this is the...
Bam, at the expense of another. I've been saying that forever. So just because there's like, and they always like to talk about what a small percentage trans people are. Okay, that's actually true. Then why do you get to dominate the space if you're just a tiny little group of people? It doesn't make sense.
And the domination of a space is not inclusive either. And they always throw that word of this inclusivity. Well, you know what? Who asked? Did anybody ask women how they felt about this? Did anyone ask? No one ever asked. They just said, so that's, to me, that's not inclusivity. That's just, not. Like you said, domination.
And also make a third space.
Control.
And also make a third effing space. Like, make a third space where if women want to go hang out with trans women, and that's fine. But don't say the lesbian bar that literally just wants leses and women in there. Then, nope, you can't include that. Sorry, that's the rule. That's the stamp. Like, sorry, that's just, it's gross. It's like, I'm going to use like sort of like maybe a black space, okay? And like black people just want to be around themselves. Maybe, let's just say maybe black lesbians, because I grew up in a space where there were clubs that were just black lesbians. And I never felt comfortable going in there because it's not my space. Unless I was invited, I still kind of didn't feel like, you know, it's not cool. They want to be around that situation. Why can't you just fucking respect that? When you respect that, people see that and they notice that. And then you maybe get to go to other spaces. But like spaces matter for people, whether it's, you know, color or sexuality or, you know, whatever. These spaces matter to people. That's how I know that that whole thing was built on domination and misogyny.
Yeah, and it's not even just, you know, lesbian spaces. It's an entire societal space of locker rooms, bathrooms, sports, all of those things. Yes. And so now all of a sudden, after all that work to get to, you know, the first wave feminism was, you know, the right to vote. The second wave feminism was, you know, women going out to work and all that work that we did. And now we're in this like other phase where it's all inverted and backwards and doesn't make any sense anymore. And it's like we're undoing everything we achieved.
That's right.
Because this tiny little percentage of people want to take control of the whole thing. I've never understood.
Because I brainwashed everybody into thinking it, but I think it's so powerful that people finally just came out of this, and women fought hard to get this passed today. I know a lot of the women that put their time and energy into this, and you know, I just feel so, I can imagine the power they feel because those nasty, disgusting, mean trans women who were so nasty to them and said so many crazy things I saw on the internet, basically telling them to off themselves and they're scum and calling them TERFs. And I'm just like, oh, you guys are digging a hole. And this is what comes out of that when you do nonsense like that. This is it.
And I talk about clarity because it's really needed. We had got ourselves into such a mess that people were at 6s and 7s over basic matters of biology, which is what people like me, you know, it's a victory for women. It's a victory for common sense.
Yes.
It's a victory for good education.
Yes.
It's a victory for children's safeguarding. But let's hear from Joanna Cherry, as you say, the former SNP politician, very much on the J.K. Rowling side of the argument, completely vilified for it.
Yep.
Also, I mean, does it? You don't need to point it out. You know, yes, she's a lesbian. You know, she was trying to protect.
Yes.
Actually, also lesbians and gays, saying that the transgender movement was actually sort of changing the state of sexuality in the country and saying, you know, girls who want to be lesbians should be allowed to be lesbians without being forced down this kind of trans path that you're being born in the wrong body. No, actually, maybe you just like girls. Maybe boys just like boys. It's nothing to do with wanting to be a different gender. It's just about being homosexual. But let's listen to Joanna Cherry outside the court steps today.
Oh my God, she just said everything right there. Remember, I really do feel on some level it was also kind of a homophobic movement.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially when they went down the road, and I've noticed that they've slowly backpedaled out of the room on this one, but they started going down the road and went down the road of saying that lesbians should be dating trans women, and if they don't, they're transphobic.
I know.
And really forcing that narrative. And when you do that, you kind of erase sexuality and sexual orientation.
100% you do. Sexuality is innately inside of you. You can't change. I talk about this in my own self and transitioning to look this way. And on some level, I live in a heterosexual world, but not really. You know, it's like, you have to live in reality when you're trans, and you have to know these kinds of things. Like, you know, I'm not a straight man, even though I live in this place with my wife, with Rachel. You know, we look this way, but in the reality of it, we're still two females in this emotional space. And so I wouldn't say that I'm a lesbian, but I guess I could be. It's complicated, right? But it doesn't matter, because as long as you understand that in your own self, and you don't come and try to take. And if you are a trans man who wants to be with a man, and you want to call yourself gay, and you and your partner are want to call yourself gay, you go right ahead, because that's your space. That's your own
personal space. You're not taking that space and applying it to everybody else.
But now I see all these trans men. I'm a gay man, and you have to have sex with me, and if you don't, then you're not gay. And you know what's doing? Gay men are getting pissed. They're like, I'm attracted to vagina. Get out of my face. And I don't blame them, because they're doing.
I don't blame them either.
That is actually so homophobic to do that to a gay man. You have to date me, or else you're transphobic. No, you don't. You actually don't. You're not a man, okay? You might look like one, but you still have a vagina, and gay men are not interested in that, okay? And if they are, that's their own kind of space to be involved in that. Oh, it's so upsetting.
It is upsetting. So no, I saw a lot of the lesbian stuff starting to, well, it's funny, back in the day, it used to be men, you know, and I still meet guys in bars or different places I go, and they joke around with me, and they say, oh yeah, I'm a lesbian too, Vikki.
Totally.
You know, and it's a freaking joke, you know what I mean? Like, I know it's a joke, and they're just being, is it a little misogynistic? Sure, but like, whatever, you know? But
men have always said that.
Yeah, it's always, but it's a joke. But then literally and very seriously, these trans women, or whatever they are, came into the picture and said, no, actually, I am a lesbian. I'm a lesbian. And I'm like, based on what?
On what?
Because last time I checked, the definition of a lesbian is a female who likes other females romantically and or sexually.
Yeah.
So it's the changing of words. And now it's like, you know, I think I was telling you before, just the other day, somebody told me that that's a conservative viewpoint to think that lesbians are, I'm living in a conservative bubble.
How is that conservative? It's called reality. It's not.
That's what I said.
Reality isn't conservative or liberal. It's reality. It's just.
Yeah, and this is how deranged these people have gotten.
They're crazy.
That language doesn't. Language, it's like they do a lot of semantics. Lots of semantics and round and round and round, because they don't want to admit that what they did was wrong. Well, so they just keep at it and keep at it.
Yeah, oh, no, totally. It's gaslighting. It's very cult-like behavior to indoctrinate people into a thought to help them in their own sort of narrative. That's all based on lies. And now they're so moated. They're actually moated. That's old school.
Yeah.
Now it's over to the politicians to make sure that the law is obeyed. So I'm calling on my former colleague John Swinney, the First Minister of Scotland, and on the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer to respect this judgment and to do what they say that they do. They both say they believe in women's rights, and they believe in women's rights to single-sex spaces. If they mean that, then they need to make sure that public policy changes to respect the fact that woman means biological woman.
So you know what's going to happen now?
Yeah.
You know, I'll tell you what's going to happen. This is all their fault. They're not going to be able to use the women's room anymore. They're not going to be able to use the women's toilet anymore. Because I'm telling you, it's going to be they're going to make it a law now. Doesn't matter if you pass, doesn't matter if you, any of it, you're not going to be able to use the women's toilet. You guys are just, I told you, they dug such a deep hole that they're never getting out of it, ever. So they fucked themselves over big time. If they would have just fucking gone about their way and nobody would have gave a shit, but now you fucked up. So, you know what?
And they forced people to I always look back at the gay rights movement. And the gay rights movement was very basic, and the messaging was very clear, and it was very consistent. It was like, leave us alone. We want to be able to get married, and we want to be able to, go to work without getting fired. It was very, very basic, consistent messaging. And were there problems? Were there outcries? Were there things that, yes, but it wasn't, we weren't looking at people and saying, you need to change the way you think, and you need to change the way you talk.
That's right.
And you need to change, like, you know what I mean? Right. So it's like, it was
totally.
They really violated the boundaries of everybody.
That's right.
And that's the problem, is like, you can't do that. They sacrificed women, children, everybody.
I know, they didn't care.
To try to get what they wanted. Yeah.
Yeah, to try to get what they wanted, but it was never going to come. Never. I knew it. I actually knew it. And I was just like, oh, it's going to be a total shit show. And now they're screwed. They're never going to get the rights that they used to even have. A lot of the stuff that they had is going to be taken away. 100% going to be taken away.
And lesbian means woman who is sexually attracted to another woman.
Bam!
Men are not included within those categories.
What the judgment made clear was that the Scottish Government, the Equality and Human Rights Commission, many, many other...
I wonder now, do you think when there's a lesbian club, can they say no to trans women? I think so, right? They can legally say no to a trans woman now.
I guess so.
Because a trans woman is not a woman. Legally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that
I guess actually... you could refuse... I mean, I don't know how the laws exactly work in the UK, but I know here you can refuse service to anyone.
If you have a public space and you own it, but for some reason it seems to me like even when they try to refuse trans women here, I think you can, but I think people are too scared to do it for the backlash of the stupid trans queer community. Yeah. It's why all the lesbian bars shut down, and nobody wants to do that anymore because they don't want to have the hassle of these idiots forcing them to, have whoever they deem should be in their own space. I wouldn't. If I was gonna open a club, I wouldn't do it now either, because you wouldn't be able to run the club the way you want it to be run. You'd have to let every Tom, Dick, and Harry inside the club.
Exactly. No, and I think about that a lot. About I don't even go to a lot of that stuff anymore because it's just
boring.
Yeah.
I mean, I did it already. Thank God.
Thank God. Exactly.
I mean,
I did it when it was still fun, I feel like.
Yeah, I do miss like bars, like hanging out and just maybe hanging out in a like cool little tiny bar, but I don't even know if that even exists. A little, not even want to say queer, because queer used to be kind of a cool space, but now it's like, ugh. If I saw any of those people, I would leave in 2 seconds. Like, gross.
Yeah, no.
Not
like
my
the pride parades. People always ask me about the pride parades, and I'm like, I actually haven't been to one in a long time.
I will never go.
I have no desire.
Nope.
I don't need that.
It's gross. And also, I just don't even like those people. I'm not even part of that community anymore. I find it to be very pathetic. And I did so many pride things. It's like, oh, God, the thought of even going to pride, the thought of even going makes me want to take a nap. I'm like, I'm going to take well, we don't have to finish the whole thing. I just kind of wanted to get that out there and talk about it because I think it's a very important ruling. But this is the UK. Let's see now if this is going to affect the United States, which I really do think it's going to.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. And it's been coming for a while. And my hope is that over the next 4 or 5 years, some of this will the whole trans thing will become not cool.
That's right. 100%.
Because that was part of the problem, is that it was like, it was, marketed to people.
100%. Still is.
Yeah. And that's got to stop, because it's not something that should be promoted for others to be doing.
That is actually sick. It doesn't make any sense to promote, to like bring kids or young people. Anyone can be trans. Oh no, that shit has to stop like instantly, because these kids are getting hurt from it. And they all like get so mad at me because I totally expose it. And I'm like, you'll thank me in 5 years. It's all good.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, you'll come back and say thank you for helping me. I already do have a lot of young people who tell me thank you for helping them realize they weren't trans before it got too late and they cut their boobs off. Yeah. They cut their boobs off. Oh my God, it's so sick. It's actually sick.
It's really, really sad that it's gotten to that point, because like, you're telling young girls that to solve their problems, you go under the knife and get rid of something off your body that's there naturally, and it's somehow that's gonna make you feel a certain way, think a certain way, solve a certain problem for you. And again, with the gatekeeping, this is why we need it. Because there's a variety of reasons that people move over to that space. And it could be because they've been SA'd. It could be because they have another disorder, like another core morbidity that's, you know, but instead they just affirm and send them along the conveyor belt. And then they don't know how to, so when they have problems, and because it's the affirmation, you know, model, they don't know what to do. They just know how to affirm, which to me, it's lazy. It's the laziest movement that I've ever seen.
Well, it's also built on money. All you have to do, sorry. Yeah. I mean, what? They're literally telling these kids it could be trans, but then you're right. When they back out of it, there's no help for them. No help for detransitioners in any way, shape, or form. They're just like, oh, you're on your own now.
No, and they have to change that. And they have to start getting better data for this stuff, too. The data is
there's none. There's literally none.
No. And they're just transing away the lesbians, transing away. And then they come back and they're not taken seriously, too. The things that I see people saying. Oh, my God. Sometimes I've gotten really good at it, dealing with it without getting too crazy, because in the beginning I was like, oh my God, I don't even know if I can handle this, because it was so intense. These people are so nasty. And,
they're like, you were never trans. You were not. And it's like, what? Like, wow, you freaks. You just were totally all love bombing them when they were trans. And now that they're not, you're not trans and you're, I'm like, oh God. It's like literally what happens in a cult. If you leave the cult, they will come after you. They will silence you. They will shame you. All of it. All of it.
It's your fault. It's actually, you know, you're to blame. How did you not know?
That's right. Totally.
You're stupid. Like, and it's just so sad. It's so sad. I really hate that detransitioners are kind of shut out of the conversation.
Oh no, it's gross.
I could have been that if I was born later on in life. Like, I totally would have thought I was trans. Totally.
A lot of women say that to me a lot, especially, you know, more butchy ones. They all say that to me, like, wow, you know, you can just see it all. It's all obvious. This little change in the law is the crack. It's the crack in this whole facade. And the house is going to come. I told you, you cannot build your house on a false foundation. It's cracking the foundation, this little teeny crack. It's going to bust everything else out. You watch, mark my words. It's all, I've been saying it for years. It's all going to come falling down on them hardcore.
What's sad is I feel like we have to lose everything to get back to a level that's considered normal, you know. And because people say to me, "Don't you know that you're next?" And
I said, they love to say that.
Yeah, and I was like, you know what? I don't really care. Let them come.
That's right.
I'll be okay because I'm secure in myself.
That's right.
We've done it before. I remember when being gay was the worst thing in the world. Believe me. Yep. So I will be just fine if they decide to take away.
Good. Yeah, that's right. We're good. You know, it's like the house is infested with cockroaches and shit. We got to burn it down. We got to burn our whole place down, and then we need to rebuild with sane people and never ever let this happen again. Ever. We can never lose gatekeeping. Never let these disingenuous. I hope I'm dead. And then next time this shit happens, because I just cannot. I won't be able to handle it. I won't.
Yeah.
I'm like so over the whole fucking thing. It's sick.
Yeah.
Thanks, Vikki. I always appreciate you. I love having you
Absolutely.
on. Thanks for the support with the channel. Thanks, everybody, for liking, subscribing, commenting. Please leave comments. I love watching them. Get this to somebody who might want to see it. And good news, things are changing, everybody. And that's because all of our hard work and keeping this conversation alive and really pointing out the disingenuous, bad people in the world. So, okay, I'll see you guys all on Wednesday on the live. Have a great day.